Hey there, welcome to Takeaway with Sam Oches, a podcast from Nation's Restaurant News. I am Sam Oches, editor-in-chief here at NRN, and this is the show where I give you an all-access pass to the restaurant industry's most influential decision-makers. This week, I'm talking with Scott Taylor. He is the CEO of the Baton Rouge, Louisiana-based sports bar concept Walk-On's Sports Bistreaux. Walk-On's, which was founded by former LSU basketball walk-on Brandon Landry and is backed by former NFL quarterback Drew Brees, has grown to 75 locations in 20 years and is expecting 15 more franchises to open in 2023. Scott was recently promoted from president to CEO of Walk-On's, and he joined the podcast to talk about the brand's deep commitment to people and to culture and how it's trying to balance that people-forward mentality with innovation in areas like technology. In this conversation, you'll learn more about what role technology should primarily serve in a restaurant, what model is best for scaling culture, and why you shouldn't cut any corners with your menu. Jumping now into my interview with Scott Taylor, the CEO of Walk-On's. Also, don't forget to stick around after the interview as I will share my 8 takeaways from this conversation, actionable insights that you can take with you on the go. Okay, Scott Taylor, the CEO of Walk-On's Sports Bistreaux. Scott, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining me today. I'm excited to talk about Walk-On's and the year you guys are getting ready to have here in 2023. I'm sure most people know what Walk-On's is by now, but what's the 1-minute pitch on what this brand is all about?
First of all, Sam, thanks for having me, man. Good to see you, brother. So if you haven't been to Walk-On's, man, it's a sports bar. It's a full service fine dining restaurant. It's a place where grandma, grandpa, babies, kids, guys night out, girls night, everybody kind of hangs out. But man, our big hits are our food, our made from scratch food. 20% kind of South Louisiana cuisine, off the charts. A clean and classy sports environment where we're 25% alcohol, not 40, 50 like a typical sports bar environment. So people are in there eating, having a good time, but you can absolutely, check out one of 70, 80 TVs or get one of 48 different beers on draft. The thing that I think also sets us apart is this Southern hospitality, genuine, good time feel team environment. Walk-On is an underdog, right? So and I think restaurant people are underdogs. So we just kind of have that, we're not supposed to be successful, which means we're going to be really successful. And so, that's kind of the mindset.
Sure. Well, you have a very successful quarterback who is backing your brand in Drew Brees, Hall of Famer. You guys are so rooted in certainly Louisiana sports, but sports in general. And I know you and I have spoken a handful of times in the last couple of years about what that looked like with COVID and what you do with a sports bar. Where sports and the experience of coming and watching a game is so baked into what you're doing. But tell me about the evolution for this brand of the last 3 years and how you have managed to kind of reset this brand in the wake of what COVID did.
Absolutely. So, it's funny. You look back at COVID, man, I remember March 2020, like, oh my God. And we were kind of watching it come, right? But, after it's over, we like to say COVID happened for us, not to us, man. We learned so much. We had to shut down our dining rooms like everybody else. And I think what happened next was a testament to what we hoped people were giving us credit for, which was our food. And so when we had to go take out only, we quickly clawed back 80% of our sales with closed dining rooms. Now, I don't think most sports bars could say, hey, people are getting those, cheese sticks and, chili, whatever, to go for dinner every night. But we were selling food to go, man. We were opening restaurants, closed dining rooms. So, all that being said, I think what it challenged us and probably most restaurant operators to do is think about technology, think about how we're going to engage with the consumer, even when they're not freaked out about germs, because they want convenience. And what does the menu of the future look like? What does the building size look like? We found out we didn't need these big dining rooms. When we had 50% occupancy, we were doing bigger sales than we had the whole dining room open. We could be more efficient. So it changed every aspect of our business. And, going into 23, which is also our 20th year, we're looking at testing, implementing all things that kind of prompted a lot. COVID made a lot of things we were thinking about move up in priority real quick. But man, we'll have a new prototype. We've got different menus going. We've got different technology engagement with our consumer, and just making so many decisions off the data. That's a good thing about technology too, right? You get all this data, you figure it out, and then you can really make smart decisions. So it's a big year ahead.
A lot of what you just said kind of makes me think of the word I hear so much right now is efficiency. I mean, we just heard it from Mark Zuckerberg in announcing that they were laying off 10,000 people at Meta. He said, oh, this is the year of efficiency. And it was so funny to hear it coming from somebody like Mark Zuckerberg. But he's right, because I'm hearing it from restaurant leaders over and over again, which is this about efficiency. And so when I think about the size of your restaurants, the way technology can help, taking a look at your menu, how does efficiency play into all of this? And what are you doing in 2023 to try to make Walk-On's a more efficient brand?
So it's interesting. I just had a great conversation with some industry leaders. CEO from Miller's Ale House is a good friend. CEO of Bar Taco, Scott Lawton, good friend. Just talking about technology. And, Bar Taco's kind of gotten this service model. They never changed after their deal, right? It's managers taking orders and ordering from a phone. And, I think for us, like, what I saw happen, is when people were able to get out, they could not wait to get back out into restaurants and have human interaction. So technology for us has got to enhance the experience. If we gain some efficiencies in the process, that's awesome. But we're not going to deploy it to be a labor saver, or how can we eliminate a server? I think if you and I are out having lunch and we got the best server out there, but that server just got sat 2 new tables and you and I want a beer, we're just gonna have to wait. It doesn't mean that this model's broken or the server's not a good person, but we could have some technology to order that beer and we're rolling, and everything's still good, but it's just the natural part of being in a full service environment. So we're looking at that stuff. I think loyalty is interesting because loyalty can be about people want to earn a bunch of points. We're trying to look at loyalty and how we can create experiences and how do we get to know what you're really wanting. And maybe our loyalty, instead of you getting a free cheese fry, you get a fast pass to get sat as soon as you come to the restaurant. You get some different things. We can create experience things and not 20% off, or you get 100 points, you get a milkshake. I mean, that's cool, but that's what everybody does. It's very fast food, in my opinion. And so we're not going down that route.
How can you tap into data and things like that around technology to improve the loyalty of your guests as well?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot to be done with research. I think AI is going to play a big role in loyalty in the future because, like I said, if I know you're a Red Sox fan, I'm going to find out how to connect with you when the Red Sox are playing. Or I know you come on Tuesdays, I'm just going to hit you up on Monday, remind you to come on Tuesday. Or I just learned your habits. I learned what you like. I learned what your behaviors are. We become friends online somehow, and we end up being that place you just go to, and I just know when and how and what to do to connect with you. And it's not a coupon, it's not a free this. It's we're just part of. We engage emotionally. I guess loyalty is about emotion, not about a coupon to me.
That's good. It's interesting when I think about it. If I think about my sandwich habits, and when I want a sandwich, I spread it around to a lot of different brands. Kind of just depends on the mood I am and where I'm at. When it comes to my sports bar, I don't spread that business around because it's I know where I'm comfortable. I know who's going to have the game I want on. I know who's got them. So it feels to your point, there's a lot of factors here that people want, not just cheaper food. They don't just want, discount, whatever. They want to feel like it's kind of like that lifestyle brand term that was so big about 10 years ago, which is to say it fits me. I am a Walk-On's person. I define myself. Is that kind of what you're going for here? And tell me about other ways you try to really invest in that.
100%. So I think, it is getting to know you, creating the experience, right? And then you go and, like I said, you do create loyalty. And I think I agree. Sports bars, people are pretty loyal. You got your place, right? But I've just got to figure out how I connect with you, where you're wanting to be part of all that. But the technology piece can just do so many different things to create that deal. I think of Cheers when I think of that place, the old school show. Everybody knows your name. I mean, that never died, right, man? So how does technology give me the ability to know your name and know that you want an ultra? And when you walk in, I'm like, hey, what's up, Sam? And we already got a beer going. You'd be like, holy crap. I mean, delete the crap. You'd be, holy, that's awesome, right? That's really great. How'd you know that? So
I got to put a parental advisory warning on this episode now, Scott.
Yeah, exactly. Please delete that one little word. But yeah, no, it's but like technology can do that, right? Technology can teach me how to be Sam at the bar to know Sam when he's coming in, and like,
right,
what do you, man? What's going on?
Well, and you guys are in this great phase now where you're 75 locations now, right? About 75.
Yep. 75.
So you're scaling. You've gone. I feel like you've kind of moved on from, you know, exciting emerging brand to watch to legitimate player with seemingly infinite white space ahead of you. You're franchising. I know you're really targeting the South and the Midwest for growth, especially right now. But everything you're just talking about and that being creating that sort of Cheers mentality, I think most consumers in their head, when they hear chain, that's sort of the antithesis of Cheers, right? Like to them, it is, no, like that's not personal. That's not, you know, it's just a chain. How do you go about scaling everything you were just talking about, that personal feeling? How do you scale that and go to 75 locations and beyond with that same vibe?
And so I'll tell you what, the biggest thing we talked about when we wanted to franchise, Drew Brees, Brandon, myself, because Drew had been a franchisee or is a franchisee with multiple brands. He was Jimmy John's. That was his story. It's a great story one day actually to get from Drew, like how he became a Jimmy John's franchisee. But like we said, if we're going to do it, let's be the best franchisor possible. And then the second thing was, how are we going to scale culture? Because like, what's unique about our brand? We got great food, but there's a lot of places got greght food. We got cool buildings. A lot of places got cool buildings, but we got a culture that's very unique to us. And like, how do you scale culture? I tell you, it's the franchising model is perfect for it because franchisees have ownership. And so it's personal to them. It isn't a chain. It's their restaurant. I look at franchisees as intrapreneurs, not entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs go out and do their own thing. That's what Brandon did 20 years ago when he opened Walk-Ons. But an entrepreneur for us is somebody that they still have to have that entrepreneurial spirit and how they look at running the business in their market, their community, they connect. We just kind of give them some guidelines, right? Here's the stuff that kind of you follow in. So can you work within a system, but also have that entrepreneurial spirit? That's how you scale it, right? If you get that mindset with the franchisee, and yeah, you can put culture in a document. You can have a little pocket card that talks about your vision. Like that's all good, but that's not culture. It starts in the heart and the soul. It's how we treat people, how they treat people. We learned a long time ago as a franchisor that the franchisee is our customer, not the person coming in ordering a burger. And once we figured that out, that's where the culture starts because we make decisions thinking about how it's going to impact them first versus how it's going to impact us. As long as we do that, we're going to be good. And they take it down the line. They're operating their team. Their team is the one who's worried about the person ordering, you know, fried alligator, right? So that's how we're doing it, man.
Well, and to that end, I mean, culture manifests in employees. I mean, it manifests in, you know, obviously management, back of house and front of house. And the last 3 years, retention and recruitment have been really, really tough for pretty much everybody. And so I imagine that has an effect on culture too. Tell me about your strategy for recruitment and retention in the past few years. How have you been able to find employees that fit the Walk-Ons culture when it seemingly has been so hard to find quality employees for just about everybody?
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. We, so what's the first thing you do? And you can't be open. You're like, we were a debt-free company in March in 2020. And I remember talking with Brandon. I said, we're going to have some debt when this is done because we got to take care of our people. First thing we got to do is make sure that everybody isn't scared. And because we're a people business, man. And like everybody's in shock right now. So let's just get out in front of that. And then, listen, I've watched so many brands out there treat people so badly, hide in the corner, you know, defensive, just hoping they could weather the storm. We're out freaking spending money. We're out feeding people, Furlough Kitchen. We partnered with Randy DeWitt and his group out in Dallas. We just started feeding people who lost their jobs. What it enabled us to do is bring people back to work. Our suppliers donated product to help the effort. And we didn't end up being in big debt for it, but man, we got just social cred with the people that work for us and the people that didn't work for us that were also coming to get a free meal because they got laid off with a note on the door at their restaurant. When we were hiring, where do you think they came? when the managers, that we didn't let any of our managers go, we fed every person, server, bartender, whatever, that we couldn't work, a free meal every single day. Just come by, get a meal every day. You got to feed your family, come by every day. We fed our people. We kept in touch. So that's helped us. And I think actions speak louder than words, right? And so we created that buzz that we just haven't struggled. I won't say it's that we don't have hiring challenges, but I mean, we were able to hire 300, 400, 500 people, or interview 1,000 people and hire 200 at a new restaurant opening in Opelika, Auburn, Alabama, a month ago. You know, where there's restaurants that now hiring banners all over the place. So people want to work somewhere where they're appreciated. They want to work somewhere where they feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves. That's being on a team, right? If you've ever played sports, unless you're like, you know, Terrell Owens or something, who was bigger than anybody in his own mind, right? But like, if you're really a team player, you know that you've got a role, man. So there's nothing better than being part of a team. And so people gravitate to that. That's the culture. And so that's what we're doing, man. We just keep talking talk culture first, people first, and then the rest will follow.
Speaking of culture, I know something you've spoken about before, and I feel like, you know, with 2023 being kind of a transitionary year, it feels like, for Walk-On's 20th anniversary, big milestone, you're scaling. But I mean, another part of this is you've moved from president to CEO. Brandon, the founder, has stepped back into more of an advisory role. That might just be a logistical thing. But to me, it also feels like there is a point for a founder and a brand where they realize they have to sort of hand reins off to somebody, and you are responsible for building this leadership team. Tell me about sort of the culture from the executive side of things, from your leadership standpoint. How are you investing in a group there at the home office that can oversee this brand and be a good steward of this brand that Brandon founded 20 years ago? What does that look like?
Absolutely. So listen, Brandon's awesome. He's just right down the hall today. So he's still here. And, you know, for me, it's an honor, right? You know, to be here and have a chance to drive the boat, right? But I've always learned that it's never even particularly about me. It has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with the team, and team before self, right? That's one of our big milestones. And so, you know, putting together an executive team that can work together, collaborate, egos aside, fight it out when you got to, but make great database decisions, because we're a franchisor. So like, we have a fiduciary responsibility to innovate, educate, energize. Like, we've got to lead people that have invested in our brand and do the best job we can. And so I think, you know, low ego, high intellect people. I like to say we need walk-ons with starter skills, because walk-ons don't really win a lot of games. They're practice squad guys, but we need the heart of a walk-on with starter skills. And so that's the team we built. And really, I don't think it even matters long-term who's leading it. Like, if it's me or it's Brandon or it's the next person, it's more that, man, if the culture's right and everybody believes and they know who their customer is, this thing just goes. But we got to get smart people, got to get the right people. And so that's my mindset. And that's really what Brandon's mindset was. So we're very similar, you know, in how we look at the vision for the brand.
Just to button up the culture piece of this real quick, there's a video that I remember we posted on NRN's LinkedIn a couple years ago ahead of a talk you did for us virtually. And you're going to have to describe, you know, I know you've got a name for it. I'm forgetting what the name is, but it's the rally before shift starts and everybody's cheering. The rumble. Yeah. Yep. Tell me about the rumble. How did that come about? Why is that so key to what Walk-Ons is all about?
So it is a funny story, and it's, you know what I love about it, and it is a cult thing. It happens twice a day in every restaurant, and whether the manager forgets, the team goes. Like, we opened a restaurant in Lafayette. It was our first restaurant we'd opened in a long time. I was a consultant actually with the company. Was going back and forth from Tampa to Baton Rouge, and so anyhow, Jack and Brandon at the time, the two founders, like, we're opening this restaurant in Lafayette. You want to help? I'm like, sure, okay, we'll do that. So we went over there, and Walk-Ons at the time, Baton Rouge, kind of more of a bar. It just hadn't evolved to where it is today. We changed the mindset when we opened Lafayette, food first, all that. And we opened up a $7 million restaurant that was doing 80% food. And we just got our bleeps kicked. I mean, bad. Like, you know, just and our trainers are crying. Like, don't stop crying. I'm not crying. Just, but it was just bad. We were getting our butts kicked. We could not figure it out. We were just barely keeping our head above water. Day 4, and we weren't doing takeout. I was like, we cannot do takeout because we could just barely keep it together. So day 4, somehow someone told the to-go person to start taking to-go orders. And it's like, next thing you know, and we were doing tickets back then. It was like, where are all these tickets coming from for to-go? And like, we just crashed. And it was like the point where, I look at the guy, the expo had tickets around his neck, and like, we're not getting out of this. And so I went up to the hostess and we put a note on the door, said closed for gas leak. And my thinking was like, we suck so bad right now. I can't go to every table and tell them you're never going to get your food. I know we suck. Like, oh my God, we suck. But when you tell me you got a gas leak, they're like, oh my God, are you going to be okay? We are, but we just need y'all to leave right now. Everything's on us. Empty the building. So we got everybody out of the building, and they're like, you guys, we're safe. Thank you. Thank you. Locked the door, and just all got together as a group and said, man, we're coming to work playing scared every day. We're getting our bleeps kicked. We got to figure out how to come in and kick bleep, right? Ass, by the way. So how are you going to do that? And so it was, let's get the frustrations out. And so we all talked about it. We had this cheer like that we would do with the servers, go walk-ons. And then we just started banging stuff, breaking plates. I mean, it was pretty, like we had closed for the day. Like we just, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, we were done. We were not opening back up till the next morning, busting plates, had a great time. A beer or two may have been drank during that period. But when it was all said and done, we said, we are not going to get our asses kicked. We're going to kick ass. And this is how we're going to symbolize it. So it's our war cry. It is absolutely a shout out to February 2011 in Lafayette, Louisiana, where it started. And we do it every day. Every server, opening lunch, opening dinner. And if the kitchen clears the board, there's nothing to cook on a Friday night, they'll start rumbling because they want to give me some tickets. We want to work. So it's a cool, it's like so cool part of the culture. Just, it gives me goosebumps thinking about it.
It is cool, and I mean, it made for great video. I think it resonated when we posted on the LinkedIn. I think it just really resonated with people. Like, that's a cool thing. Like, not many companies can say they could get their teams to do something like that, which they might feel is, they're just not invested in the brand as much
because it's authentic. It's authentic. It wasn't like, hey, let's do this really fun cheer. Like, it's authentic. It came from a story, and so, and that's when you tell that story. If you see those videos we post, those people doing that rumble have been working for us for 40 minutes. This orientation, 40 minutes. And they're like, we had a guy break his thumb doing the rumble at orientation and kept rumbling. And they're like, I'm like, dude, like, what's wrong with your thumb? I was like, stop. You look like you could have said, I'm tap out. But
I hope your health benefits are pretty good then.
Yeah, that was a good one. It's like, please check your fingers, don't bang, straight hands.
That's good. Circling back to some of the operational evolution of walk-ons, thinking about the technology piece that you talked about, thinking about just doing more off-premises service, and also thinking about the environment we're in now where so many people want order food digitally for delivery, for takeout. All of that sort of seems so counter to what you're creating at Walk-Ons. Now, of course, the sports angle, having the TVs and the game, that's an environment you cannot get at home. So that you have that going for you. But everything else that's going on with the direction of restaurants today feels a little bit counter to what I think you're trying to create. So tell me about how you do incorporate the direction that consumers are going in, the trends that they're embracing, how they want to experience food service. But as you scale, continue to, invest in this experience that you've been talking about creating inside of Walk-Ons.
Exactly, man. So I think it's the consumer is forever changed, and I think as great companies embrace that real quick, right? And so just like you don't eat out every single night. You probably drive through sometimes. You'll order food to go. It doesn't mean you're not a dine out guy. So how do I make sure that I capture more of the experiences that you're grabbing food to go? I'm not missing a visit with you going to a different, you're eating at home. You want delivery. It's raining. I don't feel like going out, right? I want to deliver. Rainy days are the best delivery days, right? So, I think it's figuring out what food you do sell to go. How does it travel? It's got to be the right packaging. It's got to be something, because French fries are like the worst thing to send out. They just get soggy. I don't care who you are. So you got even Chick-fil-A, like I think they've got, but their fries are cold soggy too. So like, what do you do to either offer alternatives to stuff that is not going to travel well, or drop in a little reheating instruction thing in that bag. It says, hey, you want your fries hot and crispy again? Just pop in the oven for 10 minutes at 350 and boom, get hot fries. But making it so that it's easy. So when you go online to order, it's easy, it's customizable, it's not clunky. I think right now we're clunky. We're going to have some really cool stuff in a couple of months. It'll be very unclunky, but it's got to be easy. It's got to be accessible. It's got to be stuff that you don't have to overthink it. And then we got to get it to you in a great format, good price. I think there's, during COVID, we were very successful with these family meal packages, but people still eat family meals on a Tuesday night when both parents work and they just want, so like, that's not a COVID thing. That's just like, that's a family thing. We need to do it. So still doing those things, making it incorporate it. But, it's hospitality. How do you treat people? Are you friendly on the phone or when they come to pick it up? Are we meeting them at the car? And you can still have that experience with the team member facing you. And that's, for us, technology will never replace the hospitality element of the human being, our walk-ons teammate that's engaging with you when you come to get your food. We just got to make it easy, maybe make it fun, maybe let you win stuff, but more, try to do as much as we can with that culture piece that it translates into the online experience or any digital experience.
So talking about your expansion efforts, I mean, again, it feels like you guys have so much just white space ahead of you, but obviously there's also competition in the sports bar category. Everything we've been talking about so far, the menu, the culture, the experience, clearly differentiators for walk-ons. But how else do you enter a market and say, all right, you have your handful of maybe some local and some chain sports bars, but we want walk-ons to be your go-to, like we were talking about, the one that you're loyal to. How does walk-on set itself apart as it does expand and enter new markets like you guys are planning to do?
Yeah, so I think it's a couple things, right? When you get into the market, as much as we're able to get our food in people's mouths early, it really tells a story there because it's and I don't know that most sports bars would say that, but for us, man, if I can get you to try our gumbo, you're like, okay, I get it. It's different. It's not typical. If I can start to tell our story a little bit, engage with, we hire teammates, but we give them a path to get into management. If you're a server, we think, man, everybody should start their career in the restaurant industry. We just don't want to lose all the great people to other industries. So how do I see something in you didn't see in yourself and give you a path to be a manager or franchisee, whatever down the road? We start telling those stories on social platforms. We'll engage in a market. We have a foundation where we will refurbish youth sports facilities like basketball courts. So if we do a groundbreaking for a building, we do a groundbreaking for a basketball court. Because everybody says we're going to be part of the community, but we're actually going to we're going to build a basketball court. We're part of the community, and that might be done before the restaurant's done. We've already invested for it. We sold the first burger. And so that's part of it, right? And then I think it's once you're open, it's how do you truly get involved and how do you, just tell the story and the franchisee in the market. That's the key, man. If we were corporate restaurants for unit number 407 and we're sending the management team out there from train, it's different. These people are from there. They live there. Their friends are there. They go to church there. They go to school there. They're like the grassroots. We just arm them with stuff to talk about. And, but it's like that's the culture. That's what's different about it, right? Because, man, it's locally owned place. It's not a chain. It's this. And so I think that helps.
So tell me about the next couple of years you see for walk-ons. Because, again, 20 years on, you guys are celebrating anniversary, 75 locations. As I understand, I think you're going to open 15 in 2023. You've talked about all this brand evolution. What's the path that walk-ons is on? What do you foresee that this brand could ultimately accomplish?
Absolutely. So one thing we talk about within our team is man, never get caught up in your own headlines, man. Everybody's like, you guys are great. I'm like, yeah, we're good. We suck less today than yesterday. We're like, we're good. We're here. Keep your eyes. But, it's, man, we're looking at different size buildings. We're trying to figure out how to make it more efficient. How can we reduce or minimize the cost for a franchisee to get into our business, right? And, is that looking at real estate that's already out there? Unfortunately, a lot of restaurants close, but man, you can go in and give it a new soul and make it a walk-ons and we do it a lot cheaper, a lot quicker. So we're looking at all of those opportunities and streamlining it. So that part we've got, shoot, I'm working on a new secret prototype I won't tell you about yet, but like that'll allow us to get into even smaller markets more efficient. And then the menu itself, man, like menu is you make money on, that's what you make money on, your drinks and your food, right? And so it's got to be compelling, it's got to be innovative, but it's also going to be executable from the line cook standpoint. So we've streamlined a lot. We've got a menu we're pulling out a test soon that I think we pulled 10, 12 items off the menu prior to that, which is hard to take things off. It's always easy to add things, but that allows us to continue to be innovative, right? The development side, we're all in on franchising. We just believe in the model. And we've got $5 million AUVs. People are like, why don't you do these on your own? I'm like, and we could. I still think franchisees do them better. And so we'd make more money if we owned them than franchisees. But you know what? Franchisees do them better. And so we're just like I said, what can we do to be a better franchise, or what are the new levels of support we can add from a tech, training, menu innovation, real estate, sites, model, prototypes like that. We're working on all that stuff. It sounds like a lot, but it's all geared to our customer, how they can be more successful long term.
Makes me think of, and you were talking about innovation. I mean, it makes me think of just like, I think when customers enter a restaurant, they don't look for necessarily the fancy bells and whistles. They're not paying close attention to all these innovative new things that, I spend all my time talking about. You spend all your time reading about. They want to come in, to your point. They want to sit and have a good experience and a good meal. And so when I hear from a lot of restaurant companies that are doing crazy innovative things, it's exciting because I think we see sort of a glimpse at the future of the restaurant industry. Simultaneously, I often wonder, does the customer care? Like, is that, and so I guess my question for you then is like the pressure to innovate. Like, what pressure do you feel to innovate? Because everything you're telling me says to me that you guys have a good model and you're sticking to it and you're sort of tweaking around the edges and you're not going to fall behind, but you're also trusting the core business model that existed for 20 years at Walk-Ons. Is that true? And do you feel a pressure to innovate and to keep up with all these trends? What does that look like?
Like you said it, man, no matter what, I think 20 years from now, 20 years ago, it was always about great food, great service. It just is. And that's the full service restaurants. Restaurants in general, but full service restaurants is that friendly, engaging server and great food. That's where we're innovating to make sure we can continue to do that. If there's technology that enhances the experience for the guest, not to save labor, which you see a lot of people doing, we're all about that, man. But it's like to innovate. Yeah, there's too much of that going on, man. I think if you've got a good base platform, you always want to keep it fresh and relevant. You always want to make sure that you're looking at what the environment is ahead and how you can, avoid, potholes and whether that be operational technology. I mean, but it's something we're conscious of because it's what can we do to make sure that our franchisee is successful? How can we help them better execute the Walk-Ons brand? And what can we do to make sure that we communicate better, we educate better, cleaner, clearer? Technology definitely helps there a lot. But man, we can't go chase little rainbows because you do that, all of a sudden you lose your focus on the ball and what you're trying to do. And it's a balance, right? But no, innovation for us is more, like I said, just how can we do what we do today better, not just do some new crazy stuff. That makes sense. We got a good model.
That's great. Scott Taylor, CEO of Walk-On Sports Bistro.
Thanks,
Scott,
man.
as always, pleasure to talk to you. Thanks, man.
All right, man. Talk to you soon, Sam. See you, brother.
That was my interview with Scott Taylor, the CEO of Walk-Ons. So what should you learn from this interview? Here are my 8 takeaways. My first takeaway is that restaurant people are underdogs. That is the whole basis of the Walk-Ons concept. A walk-on is an underdog, but you root for the underdog, and often there's a great story of the underdog excelling and overperforming on that stage. And Scott made the point that that's restaurant employees, right? There's this sort of bad idea of what a restaurant job is, this bottom rung of the ladder kind of perception, but that's not what it is at all. Restaurant jobs are fruitful and can be great if you're in the right culture. And that's what Walk-Ons is trying to provide. Scott and his team at Walk-Ons, they want to provide a place where their employees can be successful and part of a team. And that's why it's all part of the walk-ons mentality and culture, but it starts as being an underdog. My second takeaway is that technology should enhance the guest experience first and foremost, while efficiency is a great byproduct. So I was asking Scott a lot about efficiencies because we hear that a lot in 2023, that this is kind of the year of efficiency. You're trimming the fat, getting the brand in order. Walk-Ons is doing that, as Scott talked about, but he also emphasized that technology should not take the place of people. Technology should not be used for the sake of using technology. Technology should be enhancing the guest experience. Everything they're doing at Walk-Ons, that's what they're aiming to do. If it makes the brand more efficient, then that's great. But first and foremost, they start by looking at it through the lens of, does it enhance the guest experience? My third takeaway is that loyalty is about emotion. So loyalty is not about discounting. It's not about coupons, not about value. All those things play into it. But loyalty, at the end of the day, what makes a guest loyal to your brand, it's the emotional connection that they form with it. Scott is totally in tune with that. His team at Walk-Ons, they're looking at data. They're trying to leverage data and technology to learn more about their customers, to be totally prepared for tailoring this brand around the guests and their lifestyle. And that could mean remembering their favorite beer, knowing the last time they came in, understanding more about what they expect out of Walk-Ons. By tapping into that data and that information, they can really develop loyalty among their customers because it's an emotional response. My fourth takeaway is that franchising is the perfect model to scale culture. Culture, again, all about culture at Walk-Ons. And this is a franchise concept. And there's a reason why this culture is such a big piece of the franchise model for Walk-Ons. As Scott said, the franchise owner, they're invested in the success of this business. They are the owner of the restaurant. It's their restaurant. And because of that, it's personal. They're more concerned about making the culture work and making sure that the people are taken care of. Franchising, not for every restaurant brand, but if you're thinking about franchising, remember those ways in which it is really valuable as part of scaling. There are so many things you can scale with the help of the right franchise owner because they're invested as that restaurant's owner. My fifth takeaway is that if you put people first, everything else will follow. Again, this is the culture piece of it. At Walk-Ons, they start with their people. Scott and I talked about this this part of their culture that I think is really awesome. There's a video somewhere. I'll try to pull it up and put it on our show notes of the Walk-Ons Rumble, and that happens before every shift. And it's the employees starting with this really exciting kind of war cry, as Scott called it. And he told that great story of how this came to be. I think this is a really cool example of how you can build a team out of your employees, get them invested in the success of this restaurant. And as Scott said, if you do that and you put these people first and you get them invested and they care about the restaurant, success comes after, because it all trickles down from those people who are really rooted in the success of this restaurant. Comes back again to the idea of a walk-on. He said, you want the heart of a walk-on with starter skills. And so that means hiring good employees, investing in them to make sure they've got the right skill set, but they have that underdog mentality of the walk-on, as he talked about. My sixth takeaway is that if you invest enough into your culture, it should transfer to your digital experience too. We did talk a lot about technology because Walk-Ons, they're really exploring the concept of technology and how they can properly use it for their brand. And it's a little bit different with Walk-Ons because they are so people forward. But as Scott talked about, if they're getting this right, if they're building the culture right, getting the people right, it should inherently flow to the digital channels. The whole being of this brand, the DNA of it is about people, and that will reflect in the technology, in the digital channels as well. So it's safe to say that if you are more invested in the people side of things, don't feel like technology, this isn't an either or. This is, you can transfer that people first mentality over to technology effortlessly, hopefully, if you've done it right. My seventh takeaway is that your menu is how you make money, so don't cut any corners. This might sound like one of those duh kind of things to say, but in this year of efficiency that we're all having, 2023, we're talking all about efficiency. Menu, you should only do that tactfully if you're going to look at your menu for efficiencies. For example, walk-ons, they did cut some menu items, but you look at cutting underperformers. Don't cut corners. Don't go to lower quality ingredients. Scott talked about the fact that your menu has to be compelling, it has to be innovative, and it has to be executable for your employees. And that's how it's going to drive in customers. If that is your moneymaker, don't cut corners on the menu. My eighth and final takeaway is don't innovate for innovation's sake. As Scott put it, I really like this. He said, don't go chasing little rainbows because you're going to lose your focus. Don't look at all these shiny new tools and want to invest in them just because it makes you look cool or fancy or hip or whatever. Do it because it works for the foundation of your brand. You're building off your foundation and it makes sense for you. Those are all my takeaways for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please remember to subscribe to Takeaway wherever you listen to podcasts and leave your feedback. You can also email me at sam.oches@informa.com. Thanks again, and we'll talk to you next week.